Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a digital writer at Entertainment Weekly, and welcome to EW's SCAD Q&A for Wander Darkly. I'm joined by this movie's star, Sienna Miller, and director and writer, Tara Mealy. So hi to both of you guys.
Hi.
I was going to say good morning, but I realized, Sienna, you are in London, so we're all over the place today. But yeah, so the audience has finished watching this movie, which is a very emotional one. Your character, Adrian, is this woman who goes through a car accident and then is kind of stuck in this limbo state where she has to pick up the pieces and figure out what exactly happened, with her partner, Mateo, played by Diego Luna. And so first question to you, Tara, actually, you've spoken about how the idea for this film came when you've gone through, a car accident yourself, and you wanted to share that experience with the world. Was it cathartic? Was it challenging for you to have to revisit that and, this time have artistic control? But what was it like for you?
Yeah, I think certainly it was cathartic. Our accident was not as bad as what Adrian and Mateo go through. Thank goodness we're fine. My husband and I are fine. At some point on set, I think we were shooting the car accident, and I was like joking that my mother would say I was being a little dramatic about the whole thing. Yeah, I found it quite cathartic. Those sort of moments in our life when we realize like how lucky we are and how good our lives are too rare. And so I feel like this movie is this constant reminder for me to come back to that moment, to come back to that appreciation. I think when we screened at Sundance the next day, we found out that Kobe Bryant and his daughter had passed away. And I remember I was sort of in my head, you're at Sundance, it's quite noisy, and there's all this craziness going on.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, I just remember thinking, right, like that's why you made this movie, because it's so delicate, like it's so precious, and like none of this is really the thing, right? The thing is your family and people you love and the time you have. And so, yeah, it's like a good reminder for myself to live in that moment. It's not like I did it and now I'm like, no, I'm always grateful. Like it's an ongoing process for sure.
Got it. Did you kind of think about the movie again in a different light after, Kobe's passing and having all these events collide?
Yeah, I mean, and then especially through quarantine and the pandemic, I think
Mhm.
we were all quite jolly at Sundance, and then with the pandemic and everything, it just, I feel like the whole world has come into Adrian's crazy state of purgatory with her. Sorry to have manifested that, everybody.
Right. It's like, what time is it? What day is it? You're just kind of lost. Um, yeah, and Sienna, I've heard that you and Diego have known each other for a long time and have wanted to do something together. Why was this film kind of the right vehicle for you? Vehicle, I mean, I guess not really a pun, but why was this the right project for you to do together?
He was attached to it before I was, and I got snuck a script and fell in love with it. And then, of course, the fact that he was in it was a big draw because we had tried to find something. We have the same agent. But I think, it was such a beautiful concept to be in a relationship that was in the process of some form of deterioration, to be struggling through new parenthood, which is something that many women who've had a child can relate to. I found it so human and so touching. And the idea of being able to go back and explore the moments where you go wrong from the present, being able to step into the past. And I just find that kind of messy part of life about the most interesting part. It was just dense and rich and complicated and surreal and upsetting and moving and life affirming, and it just had every kind of ingredient of what I wanted to look at that time.
Right. For the both of you, what was it like working together on set with this super, super heavy movie? It's emotional all the way through. How did you get through it together? And did you have any sort of like offset, like let's decompress kind of moment?
I think we probably had a nice decompressed moment at Sundance.
That was,
But
yeah.
prior to that, there was, I keep saying like I really like to live on the edge of oh God, will this work? that discomfort. And I think also because the movie was about a character who was in this sort of concussed state and this grievous state, there was that sense on set. I think we've all blocked out so much of production and just it was a really, really hard movie to make. And I certainly felt an obligation to step up to not only the opportunity, but to the actors. I think Sienna and Diego are incredibly talented and intelligent, and felt quite challenged to make sure that I was honoring that and creating something that was worthy of what they were doing on set, which was so remarkably incredible. I mean, really quite something.
Mm-hmm. Did you go home every day after shooting and like, whew, like that was a lot?
I would honestly say I have no memory of what crying in the shower. I don't know.
Nowadays, right? We had some really long. There were nights. There was like turnaround from night to day. I think by Friday we'd shoot till I don't know what time of the morning because we get
pushing into night.
There wasn't much time to kind of like let's go for dinner, or we were just. I was just so spent on this, and then we've got children. You know, it was a very female-centric set, which was wonderful and magical. But women just do feel the burden of their responsibilities, I think, in a way that men don't. And so we all, as mothers, would rush home to our kids and try to fulfill those roles. And it was a lot. But yeah, Sundance. Right. And then COVID.
I know. That was January, right? It felt like such a long time ago. Yeah, and Terry, I know you've mentioned that the film space was kind of missing the perspective of women and mothers from that perspective too, about, like you said, the value of life. Can you speak more to that and what you wanted to do with that film from, Adrian's perspective and what you wanted to say through that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly for myself, when I became a mom, my sense of my own mortality changed, right? You're not just responsible for you, but you're responsible for these other humans that what might come for them. I don't think I deliberately set out to say, from a woman's perspective, I think that I'm going to examine this. It just happens to be my perspective. And it is something that I haven't seen maybe expressed in this way. What is the value of a woman's life? I mean, I think often in films we're devaluing a woman's life, right? Like she's often a prize, or she's a dead body in the beginning of a series that leads you off into an adventure of what man can solve the crime. Yeah, I think it just happens to be what I've lived and what I know in this case that I wanted to sort of explore.
Right. And Adrian's story, she goes back and forth between timelines and has to, reconcile with her past. And so in moments, I see in some of the scenes, she's in the past, but she's also her like limbo state reacting to her past. Like as an actor, how was it difficult to wrap her head around that sort of challenge of that moving back and forth all the time?
It was about the hardest thing I've done because, as an actor, your job is to really try to not look like you're acting. And that just requires just sort of really being in the present moment and really listening to where you are and what people are saying to you. Really, it's about listening. But to step out of that moment and suddenly change gears and be talking about yourself within that moment, it was just not, it doesn't happen in life. So there wasn't really a point of reference for how to do that and feel good in it. It just required real faith and trust in Tara, which we had, thankfully. And she would sort of have to reassure us and just say, it's working. I promise. I know it feels weird. It's going to look great. We were like, no, still kind of act mouth. I was like, I just can't do it, and then of course the magic of the edit room and a great director and these things just come together and you're like, oh, well, it was really easy actually. But in all honesty, it was really complicated. And it's sort of that thing where you have to break the fourth wall in those movies where you suddenly talk to a camera. I think I would find that, as challenging as this kind of thing, because it's just not, it's not how human behavior. But but that was definitely challenging. And then the grief sitting in that space of, 2020, now we have a reference for it, but that just real disorientated, sort of surreal, sad, lost confusion was heavy. It was heavy, but also so beautiful and tender, I think, as a film and as a story. And again, the resilience of women, what women can manage and do, and what she struggles with and how she emerges at the end. And it's just, I found it so moving.
Yeah, I mean that ending, like, ooh, it like I did not expect to cry that much. It just came. Oh my gosh. What was it like, actually seeing that play out on screen versus, just reading it in the script or acting in that moment, like seeing the ending, like what was it like for you guys?
We saw it. I saw it really for the first time at Sundance. So we had an audience that was, they're cinephiles, and everybody's there because they love independent cinema. And it feels like a real celebration of that art form. And the whole, I think there was not a dry eye. And I have to say, I was so moved by it. I found it really, really moving. It was much, you never really know how these things will translate, but it was just beautiful and delicate. And the song was so heartbreaking. And it was just filled with all the feeling that I got from reading it, but you never know whether that will translate. And that's, it was just a magic moment with the sunrise and the little girl and the dolphins, and it was beautiful.
I had that, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say the editing process was what definitely, have we made a change that takes away the emotional impact of the end? Did something in Act 1 change the way that we're feeling in Act 3? And it was constantly like, I know what that's supposed to feel like. I know what it's supposed to like bring. And it was very interesting what would change, where in the movie that would like change what you felt at the end. And that experience at Sundance, like Sienna said, I mean, strangers were like holding each other and sharing tissue. It was quite something. I mean, it was like really this quite magical premiere that we were lucky to have before COVID and before all this kind of happened. It was really nice.
Yeah, and I have to ask, the dolphins at the end, I was like, are they real? They're CGI.
Real.
They're super real. Yeah,
wow.
the dolphins were always in the script, and our producer Monica Levinson was like, I can get dolphins. I know a guy, Captain Dave. So everyone was like, sure. And I was like, no, I believe. I have full faith. There's dolphins all over the place. We can go do this. And so on a remote day, we were looking for a remote beach to play for Mexico, and Captain Dave took us out, and the producers smartly were like, let's bring a camera just in case we see dolphins. And so we saw 1 million dolphins. And then we had 2 marine days scheduled with Sienna and Diego and with our little girl at the end. And we saw dolphins both days. Captain Dave would go out and scout dolphins, and we had like our camera boat and our picture boat and then our big, I don't know, crew boat that was out. And Dave would be like, got dolphins, we've got dolphins. And they'd give us our longitude, and then we would stop what we were doing and we'd all race to the dolphins. And but by the way, those were quite intense days too. 3 a.m, leaving the marina to go 20 miles on the water to get to, it was all so,
I remember I had a 2:42 a.m. pickup that day. I was like, it's not the military, guys. I was like, I just say 2:45. 2:42. I'll never forget it. It really made me laugh. The poor man driving the boat got really seasick. He was throwing up over the, I mean, there's all sorts.
I think half the crew was throwing up over the side of the boat. I mean, really.
I was texting her. She found a text the other day, which was after we wrapped the movie. The last text I said was like, Juan's being sick. Juan's sick. Juan's sick. He was green.
Oh, he was so.
That's what's going on in that beautiful moment.
I know.
The glamorous.
You'd never know.
No, it was so beautiful. I did not. Now that we know, what it took to make that happen.
One more fun bit. I don't think you've thought about, Sienna, but I watched it in dailies all the time. At one point, you open the ashes and they fly all over Brian, our camera operator's face.
He's like, I was like, ah. Yeah, keep acting.
Oh God, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, looking at the film in the entirety and seeing it kind of coupled up, or just seeing the beginning, it's just shocking and impactful, and then you kind of have a really impactful kind of revelation at the end, it seems like a nice, perfect like bookend to begin and end the movie with. Tara, was it like at all intentional that you wanted to have both like really, really memorable scenes and in beginning?
I mean, I guess I try to aim to make the whole movie memorable. I don't know that I stack it in any particular way like that. I do have a thing about symmetry, you know, in terms of like how we begin and how we end, that I was trying to figure out. Her in the bedroom in the beginning, and then her in the bedroom at the end, closing up that space, right? That she's with her baby in the beginning, and then she's with his things at the end. There are a few of those things that I thought were important. I think I just wanted everything to call back. Like we kept saying this, right? It was like a lot of call and response, that everything like had one thing here, and then there was another thing related to it here. So I don't feel like I'm not answering that question at all.
No, it was perfect. Were there other moments that you kind of wanted to call out, that you wanted to say, pay attention, make sure you notice this callback or this moment?
Right, yeah. So I guess like for me, everything that she experiences that seems surrealist or seems like death or seems like she's in the afterworld is really just her memories kind of kicking in at her that she is really trying to shut out. So anytime she sees death, she's really seeing the truth of what happened, which was this man came and saved her. The dead hand, right, is his hand with the tattoo on it. The where's the baby is what he said when he came by the car. So it was important that those things play as if it was, you know, her experiencing some sense of an afterlife or death or the end, or like a, you know, a darkness. But the truth is that it was like her savior, right? This guy who saved her. And so yeah, all of those things were sort of deliberately kind of woven in to mislead the audience in some ways, but it all added up to something. Like none of it could just be like, oh, spooky something happening, you know.
Right.
The scratches on the belly, right? That like later when she's pulled out of the car, the scratches that's her memory, right? It's just her confusion of what actually happened.
Right. I think watching the movie, the audience is right there with Adrian, like, what is happening? Like, is she alive? Is she dead? Like, we're just kept in the dark the entire time until the end, and you realize, oh, okay. Like, that was very impactful.
I just think so, like, we don't always understand our lives in real time. Like, you know, a lot of times you have to reflect back and be like, oh, right, that's what that was really about. That's what was going on. I mean, specifically when you're concussed, heavily concussed, or heavily grieving, you know.
Did you guys shoot this chronologically? How did you shoot around this really complex, you know, script?
No, I wish we had had that luxury. That would have been lovely. Truthfully, there's no way to shoot it chronologically because the movie itself is like a spiral.
Yes.
So it's a testament to how talented Diego and Sienna are that we started day one in the hospital and we shot all that crazy hospital stuff. And I think we did like 6 pages of it out the gate. And we were putting Diego in a morgue drawer on day one and making Sienna look at her dead body. And I was like, thank you.
He was so freaked out. He said there's a horrible moment when the drawer shuts and there's this, like it echoes, the air gets sucked. You know, he came out, he was also green.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Not fun.
He was like, you have to record that sound. It's awful. And I was like, great, let's do it. We put the phone in the drawer and we went and recorded the sound.
Oh, well, I remember, I don't know if this has happened, but there was a scene in the beginning where I think Adrian's body is actually like being kind of shut into that, the morgue. Sienna, did you actually have to be in that space too? Or was it?
In the space, which was a real morgue, but they did not shut me in. They went through it and then they cut, thankfully.
Okay.
They never shut me in, which I don't think I'd have liked that much.
No.
Poor Diego, having seen his face when he came out the drawer.
I hated shooting in that space. That space had
horrible. It was
energy. We still had binders full of names and it was like
smell of it, very death-like.
Yeah.
A bit like the light in my bedroom now. Quite ghouly.
Oh man. that must be a memorable filming experience to have to be in a morgue. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this film coupled with, you know, American Woman from a couple years back, like you've really created this space of being in complex indies that really showcase the full emotions of, you know, complicated women as well. Was that something you set out to kind of to do in this past few years? Is something you want to do more of? It's because it's been, you know, amazing to see you in these fully fleshed out roles and just be so emotional and really, you know, as an actor, I'm curious.
You know, I think I'm always looking to be challenged. I think the roles are a little better. I think people are sort of more focused on more fully fledged female characters in cinema. Independent cinema is the kind of cinema I like to watch. So I think I always would go back and make those films. And I think I was just fortunate to find two really rich people to play. I also think being a woman is messy and complicated and hard and emotional. And, you know, they felt very real to me, very grounded in a sense of reality. And I think that's what I'm always looking for is does this tell the truth about the human experience from a female perspective?
I love that. Yeah. How long would you say was this film from conception? Like, when did you start thinking about it? And then did you guys wrap last year or finally finishing?
Oh my God, I don't even know what day it is. Hard
Yeah.
question. So I think I wrote it. I started writing it about 5 years ago, and then like worked on it for maybe a year, and then I mean I'm trying to remember because we wrapped it 2 years ago. Is that right?
I think so.
Wow.
We wrapped it 2 years ago, and then I posted for a year, and then we went to Sundance.
Right.
So backing out from there, I think it was like I wrote it for a year, and then we started going out to talent and got it up and shot it. So I think, you know, for a movie like this and an independent film especially, that's actually quite quick, you know, like that we got it done up on its feet in 2.5, 3 years. It was like in the can. So yeah.
What was it like having that kind of a little bit of a distance of, you know, a couple of years? Did it kind of make you see it differently or think about it differently after a while?
Yeah, I think especially like, you know, when I start, it was inspired by something that happened to my husband and I. And then, you know, as you start writing, the characters start doing their own things and quickly depart from who you are, which is lovely. And then once Sienna and Diego came in, because it had been a few years back, it certainly then felt like it was them and it was theirs. Although people have watched the film and said it was like I was watching Tara and Brett, which is a weird, you know, experience. Like Sienna's really good. Really good. But certainly like it stopped being me a long time ago. Although I do remember there was a camera test day where I was like doing something like biting my lip and Sienna was standing there and she just started doing it, biting her lip. Oh.
Stop.
It's so disconcerting. It's definitely a strange experience to direct something based on your own life. This is the first time I've done something so personal like that.
Right. And I'm imagining this film will probably make a lot of people look inward and think about, you know, their own relationships and maybe conversations they should be having with their loved ones, maybe that they're not having, and all of these sort of emotions that the film is going to bring up. Like, for both of you, is there something that you are hoping people think about or take away, or any sort of conversation that it starts?
Yeah, I certainly hope that people watch this and, you know, have sex or whatever, love the one they're with, your family, or, you know, like a lot of people I think that have seen it respond in a couple of ways. Either they've experienced a real deep grief and this speaks to them on that level, that it feels for them the way their grief felt and they haven't seen it represented this way. And then the other response I get is, you know, oh my God, I saw this film and I immediately called my wife and apologized for everything I've said, that you know, everything I should have said or, you know, done wrong. And I think both of those things are really beautiful, right? Like if it comes out that you feel a little bit more loving towards those people in your life, your nuclear family, and pet your dog, whatever people get, whatever they
Phone that ex that you treated appallingly.
text them, just get at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were there any surprising reactions that you had at Sundance or other, when you screened it? Did people say anything that you didn't realize before?
What about you, Sienna? I feel like I've talked about this.
No, I don't. I remember that someone at Sundance, there were some people who were incredibly, really distressed, right? And like in a beautiful way, but really moved. I remember we did an interview with someone and he was talking about the dolphin. There was lots of people had a kind of very, a very personal, it really spoke to them and felt, I can't remember exactly, T, what that story was. But
I think, Ben Lyons, who's such a love, he had been in a car accident. He and his wife were starting to try to have a baby. She swims with dolphins. Like, there were all these strange parallels for him. But he said from like the very beginning, like from the car crash on, he was like quite affected and never, but yeah, I had someone tell me that her father had died recently, and after she saw the film, she just like wandered around Park City for several hours, but that ultimately made her decide to want to live. And I was blown away. Or like a couple came separately to Sundance. The woman said, "I think you just saved my marriage," and took like a photo with me. And then a few nights later, this big guy, her husband, shows up and he said, "I think you met my wife. I think you just saved my marriage." And I was like, I don't know why else you make movies, but to like
save marriages.
done, all over the place.
Oh, that must be a lot.
Really beautiful personal reactions that were really meaningful to me. I think, that's
Right.
what we can ask for.
I mean, if seeing those really intense personal reactions, does that make you think about, your trajectory as a filmmaker, as an actor, and seeing, is this what I want to do more of? Because it's so impactful to people. Like, how did that kind of make you think about your future filmography or future projects that you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly like, I want to be additive to the world. I think there's like a lot of toxic, violent film that I'm not as interested in making. I think there's like maybe a lack of like, not even uplifting, right? Like, I don't want to like make like inspirational, like, but to try to capture some version of reality that feels like familiar and recognizable, and that makes your life a little bit better. I mean, that's not a bad compass.
Yeah, I mean, I think at its best, cinema can make us feel connected, or any art. That's sort of what you want it to achieve, no matter what it's about, but to feel connected to the human experience and to each other. And if you have that, that's why I love cinema and going to the cinema, which I'm, scared is becoming extinct. But the collective, collaborative experience of watching something together it's such a beautiful part of what we do. And to make something that has this kind of effect is really the goal for any art, is to move people,
Right. I think 3/4 of the movie, I was like, oh, this is a tragedy. But I think when you finish watching it and reflect back on it, like, I don't know, maybe life affirming, like you said, is a better word. Like, how would you try to encapsulate it to people?
Yeah, well, I think that's the whole point of the movie, right? Like, everyone has horrible things that happen to us. We all suffer in our lives. And it's our choice whether we say, "Oh God, what a tragedy. Why did that happen to me?" Or, "Oh my God, I'm so grateful for what I am getting," right? For the time I had with that person, or for the life that I have left. Or, I think it's ultimately we are all going to the same place, right? So finding gratitude and finding appreciation and celebrating life, even in the face of adversity or grief or loss, is really what I want this film to be about ultimately.
Mm-hmm. As we wrap up, is there anything you guys wanted to say about the film that I have not asked you about?
Just tell everyone to go and watch it, and tell everyone that they've ever met, and give it the love that the independent needs to have it seen, and
post, just share
all out, full on, all social campaign.
Yeah,
get this movie out there.
Yeah, bring tissues.
Tissues.
Mm-hmm. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.